I knew I was dead the moment I saw the gun. That's what I should have thought. But standing in Dante Moretti's office at 2 a.m., watching him slide a loaded Glock across his mahogany desk toward me, all I could think was how much my mother's medication cost, how the eviction notice gave us 14 days, how I'd already sold everything worth selling. "Pick it up," he said. I didn't. Smart girl. He smiled, cold, measured, like he'd already decided whether I lived or died before I walked through his door. This is my story. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this goes. The night it all started, I was 3 hours into my shift at Tropicana Bar, and my feet were screaming. Not metaphorically, actually screaming. The cheap sneakers I'd bought at a discount store had split along the sole 2 weeks ago, and I'd been duct taping them back together ever since. Miami heat didn't help. Neither did the fact that I'd been pulling doubles 6 days a week for the past month, trying to cover Mom's prescriptions and the rent that kept climbing for no reason except that our landlord was a bastard. "Lena, 2 mojitos, 1 whiskey neat, and stop looking like someone died." That was Maurice, my manager, 50-something, balding, permanently annoyed. He wasn't wrong about my face. I'd caught my reflection in the bar mirror earlier, dark circles under brown eyes, hair pulled back so tight it gave me a headache, lips pressed into a line that used to be softer. 26, and I already looked tired of living. "On it," I said, forcing brightness into my voice I didn't feel. The bar was packed. Friday night in South Beach meant tourists with too much money and locals trying to forget they lived here. Music pounded through the speakers, something electronic and forgettable. Bodies pressed against the bar, shouting drink orders, waving cash like flags. I made the mojitos on autopilot. Mint, lime, sugar, rum, soda. Repeat. The whiskey was easier. Just pour and slide. Tips were decent tonight. $50 so far. Might make 80 if I smiled enough. Smiling felt like work. "Excuse me." I turned. A woman stood at the bar, mid-30s, sharp blazer, sharper eyes. She wasn't dressed like the usual crowd. Too polished, too deliberate. "What can I get you?" I asked. "Is there a bathroom nearby?" I pointed toward the back hallway. She nodded, didn't order anything, and walked away. Strange, but whatever. People ask directions all the time. I went back to work. 20 minutes later, I was wiping down the bar when someone slid onto the stool directly in front of me. I didn't look up immediately, just kept wiping because Maurice was watching, and Maurice loved catching people slacking. "Bad night?" The voice was low, smooth, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. European, at least. I glanced up and stopped. The man sitting across from me didn't belong here. Not in this bar, not in this neighborhood, maybe not in this city. He wore a black suit that fit too well to be off the rack. White shirt open at the collar, no tie. Dark hair pushed back, sharp jaw, eyes so dark they looked black under the bar lights. He wasn't handsome in a safe way. He was handsome in the way that made you nervous. And he was staring at me like he already knew my social security number. "Every night's bad," I said, because honesty felt easier than pretending. "What are you drinking?" "Whiskey?" "Neat." "Specific brand?" "Dealer's choice." I poured him the mid-shelf stuff. Not the bottom, not the top. He didn't look like someone who'd complain either way. When I set the glass down, his fingers brushed mine, just barely, just enough to notice. "You work here often?" he asked. 6 nights a week. That's a lot. Bills don't care about my feelings. He smiled, and it wasn't warm exactly, but it wasn't cold either. Somewhere in between. Controlled. Like everything about him was controlled. "What's your name?" I hesitated. Giving out your name in a bar was a gamble. Sometimes it led to better tips. Sometimes it led to creeps following you to your car. "Lena?" "Lena," he repeated, like he was testing how it sounded. "I'm Dante." "Nice to meet you, Dante," I said, already turning toward another customer waving a 20. But his voice stopped me. "You're good at this." I turned back. "At what?" "Pretending you're fine." The words landed weird. Not flirty, not intrusive, just observant, like he'd taken one look at me and read the entire book. I didn't like it. "I'm great at it," I said flatly. "That's why they pay me." He picked up his glass, took a slow sip, and didn't look away. "They don't pay you enough." "Story of my life." I moved down the bar before he could say anything else, served 3 more customers, made 4 drinks, collected 2 tips. When I glanced back, Dante was still there, still watching, not in a creepy way. Worse, in a thoughtful way, like I was a problem he was figuring out how to solve. The rest of the shift blurred. Dante stayed for another hour, nursing his whiskey, saying nothing unless I came close enough to hear him. He didn't try to chat me up, didn't ask for my number, didn't do anything except exist in a way that made the whole room feel smaller. When he finally left, he put $200 bills on the bar for 1 drink. I stared at the money. Maurice saw it too. Hot damn, Lena. What'd you do? Offer him your kidney? I poured whiskey, I said quietly. Well, pour it like that more often. I pocketed the cash and tried not to think about the way Dante had looked at me before he walked out. Like he'd see me again. Like it wasn't even a question. Well, I got home at 3 a.m. Our apartment was a 1-bedroom in Little Havana, cracked tiles, peeling paint, a window, a C unit that rattled like it had asthma. Mom was asleep on the couch, TV still on, playing some late-night rerun. I turned it off, pulled a blanket over her, and stood there for a second just looking. She'd lost weight. More than before. The cancer treatments had ended 6 months ago, but the damage stuck around. So did the medical bills. So did the secondary infections. So did the prescriptions that cost $300 a pop because insurance decided they weren't necessary. I went into the kitchen, opened the fridge. Half a carton of eggs, some wilted lettuce, a jar of pickles. I closed it again, sat down at the tiny table, pulled out my phone. Bank account, $347. Rent due in 9 days, $1,200. Mom's medication refill, $290. I put my head in my hands and did the math I'd already done 1,000 times. It didn't work. It never worked. Even with tonight's tip, even with overtime, even with skipping meals and selling my dead dad's watch and canceling the internet, it didn't work. Something had to give. I just didn't know what. Shem. 3 days later, everything fell apart. I was at the bar again, different night, same exhaustion, when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. Maurice hated when we checked our phones on shift, but something made me look. Unknown. Number. Your mother was taken to Jackson Memorial, collapsed at home. Come now. My stomach dropped. I didn't ask Maurice, didn't clock out, just ripped off my apron and ran. The hospital was 15 minutes by car, 40 by bus. I took the bus because my car had died 3 months ago and I couldn't afford to fix it. Every minute felt like an hour. My hands shook, my chest was tight. Please don't let her die, please. I'll do anything, just don't let her die. When I got there, a nurse directed me to the 3rd floor. ICU. The word alone made my throat close. I found her room, pushed through the door. Mom was awake, pale, weak, but awake. An IV in her arm. Monitors beeping softly. Lena, she said, voice thin. I'm sorry. Don't, I said quickly, pulling a chair up beside her bed. Don't apologize. What happened? I just got dizzy. I'm fine now. She wasn't fine. I could see that. The nurse who came in 5 minutes later confirmed it. She's stable, the nurse said, but she needs monitoring. We're keeping her overnight, maybe longer. Okay, I said. Okay, what do I need to... We'll need to verify insurance information at the desk. My stomach sank again. Insurance? Right. The billing office was on the 1st floor. A woman with tired eyes and a name tag that said Rosa pulled up our account. Current balance is $18,400, Rosa said, not unkindly. Just factually. I blinked. That's from the last visit? From the last 3 visits, plus outstanding charges. Your mother's insurance lapsed 2 months ago. My voice cracked. I didn't know. I thought it was covered. It was. Until the policy termed out. Did she not receive the renewal notice? Maybe she had. Maybe it got lost in the pile of mail I didn't have time to sort. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I fucked up. I'll figure it out, I said, voice hollow. I'll pay. I just need time. We offer payment plans, Rosa said gently, but we'll need at least a partial payment up front to proceed with further treatment. How much? $3,000. The room tilted. $3,000. I had 347. And I don't remember leaving the hospital. Don't remember the bus ride home. Don't remember unlocking the apartment door. My brain was white noise. $3,000. I sat on the couch where Mom had been lying 3 hours ago and stared at the wall. There was no one to call, no family left, no friends with that kind of money, no credit cards that weren't already maxed. No options, except one. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my photos until I found the picture I'd taken of the $200 bills Dante had left. I'd photographed them because it felt surreal, like evidence. Evidence of what? I didn't know. But now I thought maybe it was evidence that someone out there had money to burn, and maybe I could convince him to burn some on me. Well, I went back to Tropicana the next night, hoping he'd show up again. He didn't. Or the night after that. By the third night, I'd convinced myself I was insane. You didn't just track down some stranger who tipped too much and ask him for thousands of dollars. That wasn't how the world worked. That was desperation talking. But desperation was all I had left. I was closing up the bar, wiping down bottles, stacking glasses, when Maurice called me into his office. "Lena, sit." I sat. Maurice leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "I'm going to be straight with you. We're cutting hours." My heart dropped. "What?" "Corporate decision. Everyone's getting reduced shifts. You'll go from 6 nights to 4. I can't afford 4 nights." "I know. I'm sorry, it's out of my hands." I stood up, legs shaking. "Maurice, please. I need those hours. My mom—" "I know about your mom," he said, not unkindly. "But I got 10 other bartenders in the same boat. I can't play favorites." I wanted to scream, to flip the desk, to cry. Instead, I nodded. "Thanks for letting me know," I said quietly. I walked out of his office, grabbed my bag, and left through the back exit into the alley. And that's when I saw him. Dante, leaning against a black car that probably cost more than my entire life, arms crossed, watching me like he'd been waiting. "Bad night?" he asked, echoing his first words to me. I stopped walking, stared at him. "How did you know I'd be here?" "I know a lot of things, Lena." The way he said my name, calm, certain, made my skin prickle. "Are you following me?" I asked. "No, I'm offering you a job." I blinked. "What?" He pushed off the car, stepped closer, not threatening, just present. "You need money. I need someone I can trust. It's a simple equation. You don't even know me." "I know enough. You know I pour drinks. I know you work 80 hours a week to keep your mother alive. I know your landlord's about to evict you. I know you're drowning and too proud to ask for help." Ice slid down my spine. "How do you—" "I make it my business to know things." He tilted his head, studied me. "So here's the offer. Work for me. Personal assistant. You'll make $10,000 a month plus benefits. Health insurance. Housing if you need it. $10,000 a month." I couldn't breathe. "What's the catch?" I whispered. "No catch. Just loyalty." "Loyalty to what?" "To me." There it was, the thing that made this wrong, the thing that made this dangerous. "What do you do?" I asked. "I run a business." "What kind of business?" He smiled, that same controlled smile. "The kind that solves problems." I should have walked away, should have said no, should have recognized the red flags waving in my face. But Mom was in the hospital, and I had 9 days until eviction, and the world didn't give a shit about should. "When do I start?" I asked. Dante's smile widened. "Right now." He drove me to a building downtown I'd passed 100 times but never noticed. Tall, glass, expensive. The kind of place where people in suits made decisions that ruined lives without blinking. We took an elevator to the 20th floor. When the doors opened, I stepped into an office that looked like it belonged in a movie. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, dark wood furniture, leather chairs, a desk the size of my entire kitchen, and sitting on that desk was the gun I'd see in my nightmares for months. Dante walked past it like it wasn't there, poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. "Sit," he said. I sat. He leaned against the desk, glass in hand, and looked at me. "I'm going to be very clear with you, Lena, Because I don't believe in surprises. The work I do isn't legal. It's not safe. And it's not simple. But it pays well. And if you're smart, you'll survive it. My throat was dry. What kind of work? I manage investments. I broker deals. I solve disputes. Sometimes those disputes get messy. Messy how? The kind of messy that ends with people disappearing. He said it so casually, like he was describing the weather. I should have run. Why me? I asked instead. Because you're desperate. Because you're smart. Because you don't have any other options. He took a sip of his drink. And because your father owed me a debt. Everything stopped. What? Your father, Ricky Carter. He worked for my family 15 years ago, ran errands, delivered packages. Then he got greedy, stole from us, disappeared. I shook my head. My dad died in a car accident. Your dad died because he crossed the wrong people, Dante said quietly. And those people were mine. The room spun. You're lying. I'm not. You killed him. I didn't. I was 12. But my family did. I stood up, legs shaking. You brought me here to, what? Finish the job? No. He set his glass down, stepped closer. I brought you here because I don't believe in punishing children for their parents' mistakes. You didn't steal from me. You didn't betray me. You're innocent. Then why tell me? Because I don't lie to people I work with. And because I want you to understand something. His eyes locked onto mine. You're here by choice, not chance. I could have helped you anonymously, paid your mother's bills, made your problems disappear, but I didn't. I wanted you to choose this, to walk into it with your eyes open. Why? Because I think you're stronger than you know, and I need strong people. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hit him. Instead, I just stood there, shaking. If I say no, I whispered, you walk out that door. I pay your mother's medical bills anyway. You never see me again. And if I say yes, you work for me. You keep my schedule. You handle my meetings. You ask no questions. You tell no one. And you survive. He stepped back, gave me space. Your choice, Lena. I looked at the gun on the desk, looked at the city through the window, looked at him. I need the money by tomorrow, I said, for my mom. Done. And I want it in writing, the salary, the insurance, all of it. Done. And if I don't like it, I walk. After 3 months. Not before. I swallowed. 3 months. 3 months. I took a breath. Let it out. Okay. Dante smiled, and I realized too late that I'd just made a deal with the devil. But the devil paid well, and my mother was still breathing. So maybe that was enough. The money hit my account at 6 a.m. I know because I was awake, staring at my phone, refreshing my banking app every 30 seconds like some kind of addict. When the numbers changed, when that balance jumped from $347 to $10,347, I actually gasped out loud. Mom stirred on the couch. Lena, go back to sleep, I whispered. But I couldn't. I just sat there in the dark, looking at those numbers, feeling like I'd swallowed something sharp. $10,000. Just like that. Just because I'd said yes to a man who'd admitted, casually, like it was nothing, that his family had killed my father. I should have felt relieved. Grateful, even. Instead, I felt sick. By 7, I was dressed. By 8, I was at the hospital, paying the bill in full at the front desk. Rosa looked shocked when I handed over the card Dante had given me the night before. Black, heavy, no name on it except a series of numbers. This should cover the outstanding balance and the current stay, I said. She ran it. It went through. Simple as that. You're all set, Rosa said, smiling now. Your mother can stay as long as she needs. Thank you. I went upstairs. Mom was awake, eating breakfast off a plastic tray. She looked better, still pale, still weak, but better. Hey, baby, she said when I walked in. You didn't have to come so early. I wanted to. I sat down beside her bed. They said you can stay a few more days, just to be safe. Lena, we can't afford... It's handled. She frowned. What do you mean, handled? I picked up some extra shifts, made good tips. It's fine. The lie came easy, too easy. Mom studied my face, and for a second I thought she'd call me on it, but she just nodded, too tired to argue. "You're a good girl," she said softly. I wasn't. Not anymore. But I smiled and held her hand until she fell back asleep. When I left the hospital, my phone buzzed. "Dante. Car will pick you up at noon. Wear something professional. No greeting, no question. Just an order." I stared at the text. This was my life now. I went home, showered, and stood in front of my closet trying to figure out what professional meant when you worked for a criminal. I didn't own much. A black dress I'd worn to my dad's funeral 10 years ago. A pair of slacks I'd bought for a job interview that went nowhere. A white blouse with a stain on the sleeve I couldn't get out. I went with the slacks and a gray sweater that didn't have any holes. Good enough. At noon, a black Mercedes pulled up outside my building. The driver didn't get out, just waited. I climbed into the back seat and we drove in silence to the same building downtown. This time, I noticed things I'd missed the night before. Security cameras at every corner. A man in a suit standing by the entrance, watching everyone who walked in. Another man on the 20th floor when the elevator doors opened. I wasn't in an office. I was in a fortress. Dante was waiting in the same room as before. No gun on the desk this time, just paperwork. Lots of it. "Sit," he said. I sat. He slid a contract across the desk. "Read it. Sign it. Ask questions if you have them." I picked it up. It was dense. Legal jargon, clauses, terms I didn't fully understand. But the numbers were clear. $10,000 a month. Health insurance effective immediately. Housing allowance if needed. 3-month minimum commitment. And at the bottom, in bold, non-disclosure agreement. Breach of confidentiality will result in immediate termination and legal action. Legal action, I repeated. Meaning what? Meaning if you talk about what you see here, I'll make sure you regret it. How comforting. I'm not here to comfort you, Lena. I'm here to employ you. I signed it. What choice did I have? Dante took the contract, filed it away, and leaned back in his chair. Your job is simple. You manage my schedule. You screen my calls, you attend meetings with me and take notes. You don't ask questions. You don't repeat what you hear. You show up on time, you do what I say, and you go home at the end of the day. Understood? Understood? Good. We start now. He stood, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the door. I followed. Where are we going? I asked. Meeting. With who? He glanced back at me. You just broke your first rule. I shut my mouth. We took his car, a different one this time, sleek and black with tinted windows. The driver was the same man from earlier. He didn't speak, didn't look at me, just drove. Dante sat beside me, scrolling through his phone, completely relaxed, like this was normal, like I was supposed to know what the hell I was doing. Do I need to prepare anything? I asked carefully. No. Do I need to say anything? No. Then what am I doing? Learning. The car stopped outside a restaurant I'd never heard of, some Italian place in Coral Gables with no sign, just a red door. Dante got out. I followed. Inside it was dim, quiet. A hostess led us to a private room in the back. A man was already waiting. He was older than Dante, 50s maybe. Gray hair, expensive suit, gold watch. He smiled when we walked in, but it didn't reach his eyes. Dante, the man said, good to see you. Vincent? Dante sat down across from him. I stood awkwardly until Dante gestured to the chair beside him. I sat. Vincent's gaze flicked to me. New assistant? Yes. She's young. She's capable. Vincent's smile sharpened. I'm sure she is. I didn't like the way he looked at me, like I was something to assess, to calculate. A waiter appeared, poured wine, disappeared. Neither man touched their glass. Let's get to it, Dante said. You owe me $200,000. Payment was due last week. Vincent sighed. I'm working on it. That's not an answer. I need more time. You've had time. The shipment got delayed. You know how it is. I know how it is when people make excuses. Dante's voice didn't rise, didn't change, but the air in the room shifted, got heavier. You agreed to terms. You missed the deadline. Now there's interest. Interest, Vincent repeated. How much? 20%. That's fair, Dante interrupted, considering I could have sent someone less polite. Vincent's jaw tightened. He glanced at me again, like maybe I'd intervene. I didn't move. Fine, Vincent said finally. 2 weeks. I'll have it. 1 week. Dante? 1 week, Vincent, or we renegotiate in a way you won't like. Silence. Then Vincent nodded. 1 week. Dante stood, I stood. We left. In the car, I finally spoke. What happens if he doesn't pay? Dante didn't look at me, just stared out the window. You're asking questions again. I need to know what I'm part of. You're part of what I tell you you're part of. That's not an answer. He turned, met my eyes. If he doesn't pay, I take collateral, his business, his house, whatever's worth 200,000 plus interest. And if he doesn't have it? Dante smiled. Everyone has something worth taking. The way he said it made my stomach twist. This wasn't a business, it was a machine, and I'd just become a cog. The rest of the day was a blur. 3 more meetings, 2 phone calls, 1 very tense conversation in a parking garage with a man who kept looking at me like he wanted to ask why I was there, but didn't dare. By 6 p.m., I was exhausted. Dante drove me home himself this time. No driver, just us. You did well today, he said as we pulled up outside my building. I didn't do anything. Exactly. You stayed quiet. You paid attention. That's more than most people manage on their first day. I looked at him, really looked. He was calm, always calm, like nothing rattled him, like the world bent around him instead of the other way around. Why me? I asked. Really? He was quiet for a moment, then, because you're honest. I lied to my mother this morning. You lied to protect her. That's different. He shifted in his seat, facing me. Most people lie to protect themselves. You don't. That's rare. You don't even know me. I know enough. There it was again. That certainty, like he'd already written the ending and I was just walking through the script. Get some sleep, Dante said. Tomorrow starts early. I got out of the car and watched him drive away. Inside, the apartment was dark. Mom was still at the hospital. I was alone. I sat on the couch, pulled out my phone, and Googled Dante Moretti, Miami. Nothing. I tried Moretti family, Miami. Still nothing. Miami organized crime, a few articles. Nothing concrete. Just speculation, rumors, the kind of thing people whispered about but never proved. I put my phone down. Whoever Dante was, he didn't exist online. And that scared me more than anything he'd said. The next 2 weeks were a crash course in a world I didn't understand. I learned that Dante's business was everywhere. Real estate, shipping, restaurants, clubs. All of it legitimate on paper. All of it dirty underneath. I learned that people were terrified of him. Not because he yelled, not because he threatened, but because he didn't have to. His reputation did the work. I learned that loyalty wasn't optional. It was currency. And I learned that I was good at this job. Too good. I started anticipating what Dante needed before he asked. Started recognizing patterns in the people he met with. Started understanding the language they spoke. Coded, careful, always just vague enough to deny later. You're a fast learner, Dante said one afternoon as we left another meeting. I pay attention. Most people don't. Most people aren't desperate. He glanced at me. Is that what you are? Desperate? I didn't answer. By the 3rd week, I'd stopped flinching when someone mentioned guns, stopped jumping when a conversation turned ugly, stopped pretending I didn't know what was happening. I knew. I just didn't know how deep I was in until the night Dante took me to the warehouse. It was late, past midnight. We'd just finished dinner with a man who ran half the ports in Miami. Dante had been quiet the whole drive back, staring out the window. We need to make a stop, he said. The driver turned onto a side road I didn't recognize, industrial area. Empty lots, broken streetlights. The warehouse was unmarked. Just a big metal building with a rolling door. Dante got out. I followed. Inside it was cold. Concrete floors, dim lights. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair, was Vincent, the man from the restaurant. The man who'd promised to pay in 1 week. He looked bad. Swollen eye, split lip, blood on his shirt. I stopped walking. Dante kept going. Vincent, he said calmly, It's been 2 weeks. I know, Vincent gasped. I know, I need a few more days. You've had enough days. Two men stepped out of the shadows. I recognized one of them. He'd been at a meeting last week. The other was a stranger. Both of them looked like they knew how to hurt people. Wait, Vincent said, voice cracking. Please, I can get it, I swear, You already swore. Dante crouched in front of him. And you lied. I didn't lie, You lied. Dante stood, turned, and walked toward me. He didn't stop until he was close enough that I could see my reflection in his eyes. Go wait in the car, he said quietly. What are you going to do? Lena, car, now. I should have listened, should have walked out, should have pretended I didn't see what was about to happen, but I didn't move. Dante's expression shifted. Not anger. Something else. Disappointment, maybe. You don't want to see this, he said. I'm already here. That doesn't mean you have to watch. If I work for you, I need to know what that means. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Fine. He turned back to Vincent, gestured to the two men. Make it quick. I won't describe what happened next. I can't. Not because I don't remember. I do, in perfect detail, but because some things don't translate into words. Pain does. Fear does. The sound of bone breaking does. But the feeling of standing there, watching, knowing you could stop it but won't, that doesn't fit in language. When it was over, Vincent was unconscious. Maybe dead. I didn't ask. Dante walked past me without a word. I followed him to the car. We drove in silence for 20 minutes. Finally, I spoke. Did you kill him? No? Will he live? Probably. What did you take from him? His business, his accounts, everything he had. Was it worth $200,000? No. It was worth $400,000. Dante glanced at me. Interest. I looked out the window, watched the city blur past. You're angry, Dante said. I'm not. You are. I'm not angry. I stopped, tried to find the word. I'm trying to figure out if I can live with this. Can you? I didn't answer right away. Then, I don't know yet. Dante pulled over. Right there, middle of the street, he turned to face me fully. Listen to me, he said. I gave you an out. I told you to wait in the car. You chose to stay. That's on you. Not me. I know. Then don't act like I forced you to watch. You didn't force me, but you knew I would. He smiled, just barely. Yeah, I did. Why? Because you need to understand what this is. Not what you think it is. What it actually is. He leaned closer. I don't hurt people for fun, Lena. I hurt people who break deals, who steal, who lie. That's the rule. You follow it, you're safe. You break it, you're not. And what if I break it? Then you end up like Vincent. The air between us was thick, heavy. Are you trying to scare me? I asked. No, I'm trying to be honest with you. Why? Because you asked for honesty, and because I don't want you to quit. That surprised me. Why would you care if I quit? Because you're good at this. Better than I expected. And I don't want to train someone new. It wasn't a compliment. It was a calculation. But somehow, that made it worse. Take me home, I said quietly. He did. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The sound of Vincent begging. The look on Dante's face, calm, detached, like he was watching someone fix a leaky pipe. The fact that I'd stood there and done nothing. By morning, I'd made a decision. I was going to stay. Not because I wanted to, not because I agreed with it, but because Mom was still in the hospital, because rent was due again in 2 weeks, because the world didn't stop being cruel just because you wanted it to. And because, God help me, I was starting to understand the rules. Dante's world wasn't chaos. It was order, brutal, efficient order, and if I played by the rules, I'd survive it. Maybe. When I showed up at the office the next morning, Dante was waiting. You came back, he said. I signed a contract. Contracts can be broken. Not by me, he smiled, and this time it almost looked real. Good, he said. We have work to do. The work became routine faster than I expected. Mornings started at 7. Coffee in Dante's office while he sorted through overnight messages. Emails and code I was learning to decrypt. Numbers that didn't match what they were supposed to represent. Shipments that weren't really shipments. Meetings that were never about what they claimed to be about. By week 5, I could read between the lines without trying. When someone said merchandise, they meant drugs. When they said distribution, they meant territory. When they said partnership, they meant extortion. I kept my mouth shut and took notes. Mom came home from the hospital on a Tuesday. I'd arranged for a nurse to check on her 3 times a week, another thing Dante's money made possible. She asked how I could afford it. I told her I'd gotten promoted. She believed me because she wanted to. I visited her every night after work, brought groceries, made dinner, pretended everything was normal. It almost felt true. Until I got back to my apartment one night and found Dante sitting on my couch. I froze in the doorway. "How did you get in here?" "Your landlord's very accommodating." He didn't stand, just sat there like he owned the place. Maybe he did now. I didn't know anymore. "You can't just break into my apartment." "I didn't break in. I walked in. There's a difference. Not legally." "Lena." He finally looked at me. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Those words never meant anything good. I closed the door behind me, set my bag down. "About what?" "About the fact that you're being followed." Everything went cold. "What?" "For the past 3 days, different car each time. Always 2 people. They're not very good at it, but they're persistent." He stood now, walked to the window, pulled the curtain back slightly. "Gray sedan, across the street. See it?" I looked. He was right. Gray sedan, 2 shapes in the front seat. "Who are they?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." He let the curtain fall. "Could be cops. Could be competitors. Could be someone Vincent talked to before we shut him down." "Vincent's alive?" "Unfortunately." I sat down on the arm of the couch because my legs suddenly felt unreliable. "What do they want?" "You. Or information about me. Probably both." Dante crossed his arms. "Which is why you're not staying here tonight." "I'm not going anywhere." "Yes, you are. This is my home. This is a target." He pulled out his phone, typed something. "I have an apartment in Brickell, secure building, security on every floor. You'll stay there until we figure out who's watching you." "I'm not leaving my mom." "Your mom's in Little Havana. They're watching you, not her. She's safer if you're not around." He was right. I hated that he was right. "How long?" I asked. "However long it takes." "And if I say no?" "Then you're gambling with your life, your choice." I looked at the window, at the gray sedan, at the life I'd been pretending was still mine. "Fine," I said, "but I need to pack." "You have 10 minutes." I packed fast. Clothes, toiletries, phone charger, the photo of my dad I kept in my nightstand drawer. Dante watched from the doorway, silent. When I was done, we left through the back exit. His car was waiting in the alley. Different driver this time. A woman. She didn't speak, just drove. The apartment in Bristol was on the 32nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern furniture. A kitchen I'd never use. It looked like a hotel room. Sterile. Empty. "Make yourself comfortable," Dante said. "The fridge is stocked. Security knows you're here. You need anything, call me." "I need to know who's following me." "I'm working on it." "That's not good enough." He stopped at the door, turned back. "What do you want me to say, Lena? That I have all the answers? I don't, but I will. Just give me time." "How much time did you give Vincent?" The question hung between us. Dante's expression didn't change. "Vincent had 2 weeks and blew them both. You're not Vincent. Stop comparing yourself to people who made bad choices." "I made a bad choice. I chose to work for you." "No, you made a desperate choice. There's a difference." He left before I could argue. I spent that first night in the apartment staring out the window at the city. Miami looked different from up here. Cleaner, prettier, like all the ugliness was hidden under lights and distance. I wondered if that's how Dante saw the world. From above. Detached. Safe. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "We know where you are." My heart stopped. I stared at the message. Read it 3 times. Checked the number. Nothing. Just digits. Another buzz. Unknown number. Tell Moretti we want to talk, or you're next. I called Dante. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? I got a text. What did it say? I read it to him, word for word, silence on the other end. Then, don't leave the apartment, don't answer the door, I'm on my way. He hung up. 20 minutes later, he was there. Not alone this time, 2 men with him, both armed. Show me, Dante said. I handed him my phone. He read the messages, jaw tight, handed the phone to one of the men. Trace it, he said. The man nodded, walked into the other room. Dante looked at me. Really looked like he was checking for damage. You okay? No. Fair enough. He moved to the window, checked the street below. They shouldn't know about this place, which means either they're very good or someone told them. Who would tell them? That's what I'm going to find out. The other man came back, shook his head. Burner phone. Can't trace it. Dante swore under his breath. Then, double security. No one in or out without clearance, and get Marco on finding out who leaked the location. On it. The 2 men left. Dante stayed. You should go too, I said. I'm not leaving you alone. I'm fine. You're scared. I'm always scared now. He didn't argue with that. Just sat down on the couch, leaned back. You want a drink? It's 2 a.m. That's not a no. I poured us both whiskey from the bar cart in the corner, handed him a glass, sat on the opposite end of the couch. Who do you think they are? I asked. Could be a dozen different people. I've made a lot of enemies. Comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. You keep saying that, but you keep showing up. He looked at me over the rim of his glass. Maybe I'm bad at following my own rules. Or maybe you actually care. Don't confuse self-interest with caring, Lena. You're valuable to me. That's different. How? Because caring is a weakness, value is strategic. I took a sip of whiskey. It burned going down. You ever get tired of talking like everything's a transaction? No, because everything is. Even this? Especially this. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. We sat in silence for a while, just drinking, just existing in the same space. Finally, Dante spoke. You asked me once why I chose you. You said I was honest. I lied. I looked at him. What? I mean, you are honest, but that's not why. He set his glass down. I chose you because I saw something in you I recognized. What? Survival instinct. He met my eyes. Most people, when they're drowning, they panic. They flail. They make it worse. But you went still. You calculated. You made the hard choice without flinching. That's rare. I flinched plenty, not where it counted. I didn't know how to respond to that. Didn't know if it was a compliment or an accusation. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I need you to keep making hard choices, and I need you to trust that I'll do the same. I don't trust you. I know, but you will. He stood, grabbed his jacket. Get some sleep. I'll be in the next room. You're staying? Until we know you're safe. That could be days. Then I'll be here for days. He walked into the guest bedroom and closed the door. I sat there alone trying to process everything. The text, the threat, the fact that Dante Moretti was sleeping 20 feet away because someone wanted me dead. This was my life now. I hated it. But I also knew I wasn't leaving. The next morning, Dante was on the phone when I woke up, pacing the living room, speaking in rapid Italian. I caught maybe 1 word in 10. None of them sounded good. He hung up when he saw me. Coffee's ready, he said. I poured myself a cup. Any news? Some. The text came from a burner phone purchased in Hialeah 2 days ago. Cash transaction. No cameras. So we know nothing. We know they're organized, and we know they're watching closely enough to find you here within hours. He leaned against the counter. Which means someone in my organization is talking. Who? I have 3 names. We're checking them now. And when you find out, you don't want to know. He was probably right. My phone buzzed. Another text. Unknown number. Clock's ticking, Lena. Tell him to answer or people start dying. I showed Dante. His face went hard. They're escalating, he said quietly. What do they want? A meeting, territory, money, who knows? He took my phone, typed something. I'm setting up a trace. If they text again, we'll pinpoint the location. And then what? Then we have a conversation. The way he said conversation made my skin crawl. Over the next 3 days, I barely left the apartment. Dante came and went, sometimes with updates, sometimes with nothing. Security rotated shifts outside the door. I felt like a prisoner, a very comfortable, very expensive prisoner. On the 4th day, Dante came in with news. We found him. Found who? The leak. Guy named Tommy, worked security for me for 6 months. Turns out he was feeding information to a crew out of Fort Lauderdale. What are you going to do? What I always do. I felt sick. You're going to kill him. I'm going to fire him permanently. That's the same thing. Not in my world. He left before I could argue. I spent that afternoon staring out the window, thinking about Tommy, wondering if he had a family, kids, a reason for betraying Dante beyond money, wondering if it mattered. By the time Dante came back, it was dark outside. It's done, he said. I don't want details. I wasn't going to give you any. He poured himself a drink, downed it in one swallow, poured another. You okay? I asked. Why wouldn't I be? Because you just killed someone. I didn't kill him. I had someone else do it. He looked at me. Does that make you feel better? No? Good. It shouldn't. He sat down, rubbed his face. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked tired. Actually tired. Not just physically, something deeper. You ever regret this? I asked quietly. This what? This life, this business, all of it. He was quiet for a long time. Then, every day. The honesty surprised me. Then why do it? Because I'm good at it. Because my family built this. Because walking away means someone worse takes over. He looked at me. And because I don't know how to be anything else. You could learn. Could you? The question hit harder than I expected. Could I walk away now? Go back to bartending? Pretend I hadn't seen what I'd seen? Pretend I didn't know what happened to people who broke deals with Dante Moretti? I don't know, I said honestly. Then we're both stuck. Another text came through that night. Unknown number. Your man killed Tommy. That wasn't smart. Now we're coming for you. I showed Dante immediately. He read it, didn't react, just handed the phone back. Let them come. What? You heard me. Let them come. Are you insane? No, I'm tired of playing defense. He pulled out his own phone. Marco, get the team together. We're moving tonight. Moving where? I asked. To end this. By doing what? By showing them what happens when you threaten what's mine. The word mine hung in the air between us. I'm not yours, I said. No, but they think you are. And that's all that matters. He made 3 more calls, gave orders, set things in motion I couldn't follow. Then he turned to me. Pack a bag, small one, we're leaving in 20 minutes. I'm not going anywhere. Lena, for once, just trust me. Why should I? Because if you stay here, you die, and I'm not letting that happen. The certainty in his voice was what convinced me. I packed. 20 minutes later, we were in his car, not heading downtown, not heading to any building I recognized, just driving, fast. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere they won't think to look. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. We drove for an hour, out of Miami, through suburbs, into an area I didn't recognize. Finally, Dante pulled up to a house. Small, quiet, normal. What is this place? Mine, he said. No one knows about it. Not even my family. Why? Because everyone needs somewhere to disappear. Inside the house was simple. Furniture that didn't match. A kitchen that looked actually used. Photos on the walls of people I didn't recognize. Who are they? I asked, pointing at a photo of a woman and a little boy. My mother and me. A long time ago. I looked closer. The boy in the photo was smiling. Really smiling. Not the controlled version Dante wore now. You look happy, I said. I was. before I knew what I'd become. He walked into the kitchen, started making coffee like this was normal. Like we hadn't just fled my apartment because someone wanted me dead. How long are we staying here? I asked. Until it's safe. And when is that? When they're all dead. He said it so casually, like he was talking about the weather. I sat down at the kitchen table, put my head in my hands. I can't keep doing this, I said. Yes, you can. No, I can't. I can't keep pretending this is okay, that any of this is okay. Dante set a mug of coffee in front of me, sat down across from me. You want out? He asked. I don't know what I want. That's not true. You know exactly what you want. You're just scared to admit it. Oh, really? What do I want? Safety, security, your mother taken care of, and you want to stop feeling guilty about how you're getting it. I looked up at him. You think you know me so well. I know you better than you think. Then tell me this. Why am I still here? Why haven't I run? Because you're smarter than that. Because you know running doesn't solve anything. And because... He paused, looked at me like he was deciding whether to say it. Because you're starting to understand how this works. And part of you likes it. I don't like it. You don't like the violence, that's different. But the power, the control, the fact that for the first time in your life you're not drowning? He leaned forward. You like that just fine. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong. But I couldn't. Because he wasn't. I hate that you're right, I said quietly. I know. We sat in silence, drinking coffee, existing in this strange space where everything was wrong but somehow felt inevitable. Finally, Dante spoke. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. Why? Because you asked if I regret this life, and I want you to understand why the answer is complicated. I waited. When I was 16, my father sat me down and told me I had two choices. I could walk away from the family business and survive, or I could stay and thrive, but I couldn't do both. He stared into his coffee. I chose to stay, and for 10 years I told myself it was the right choice, that I was building something, that I was protecting people, that the violence was necessary. And now? Now I know it wasn't necessary. It was just easy, and I'm too far in to stop. You could stop. No, I couldn't. Because stopping means everything I've done was for nothing. Every person I've hurt, every deal I've made, every line I've crossed. If I walk away, it all becomes meaningless. So you keep going. So I keep going. I understood then, really understood. Dante wasn't a villain. He was a man trapped in a machine he'd built himself, and he couldn't find the off switch, just like me. We're a mess, I said. Yeah, we are. So what do? We survive, together, and we try to make it mean something. How? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. He reached across the table, took my hand, and for the first time since this all started, I didn't pull away. We stayed at the house for 3 days. 3 days of silence, of waiting, of Dante making phone calls in the other room while I sat on the couch, pretending I couldn't hear the tone of his voice shift from calm to dangerous and back again. 3 days of realizing that the hand he'd held across the kitchen table wasn't just comfort. It was a claim. On the morning of the 4th day, Dante came out of the bedroom dressed in all black. Not a suit. Tactical clothing. The kind people wore when they were planning to get dirty. Stay inside today, he said. Don't answer the door. Don't go near the windows. Where are you going? To finish this. By yourself? With my team. I stood up. You're going after them. Yes. What if something happens to you? Then Marco knows what to do. You'll be taken care of. I don't want to be taken care of. I want you to not die. He stopped, turned, looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Why? He asked. Because I stopped, tried to find words that made sense. Because I've already lost too many people. You barely know me. I know you enough. Something shifted in his eyes, something that looked almost vulnerable, but it disappeared before I could name it. I'll be back by tonight, he said. Promise? I don't make promises I can't keep. Then keep it. He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob, didn't turn around. Lena. Yeah? If I don't come back, there's an envelope in the nightstand drawer. Everything you need is in there. Money, contacts, instructions. Stop talking like you're going to die. I'm not planning to, but I'm not stupid either. He finally looked back. You'll be okay. With or without me. I don't want to find out which. He almost smiled. Almost. Then he left. I spent that day pacing, checking my phone every 5 minutes, staring at the clock. The envelope in the nightstand felt like it was burning a hole through the furniture. I didn't open it, refused to, because opening it meant accepting that Dante might not come back. And I wasn't ready to accept that. By 6 p.m., my nerves were shot. I made coffee I didn't drink. Turned on the TV and heard nothing. Sat down, stood up, sat down again. At 7, headlights swept across the front window. I froze. The car door slammed. Footsteps on the porch. The lock turned. Dante walked in. Alive. Bloody, but alive. Jesus, I breathed. Not my blood, he said quickly, seeing my face. Well, most of it isn't. Are you hurt? Nothing serious. He pulled off his jacket, revealing a torn shirt and what looked like a graze across his ribs. Got careless. You got shot. Grazed. There's a difference. I grabbed his arm, pulled him toward the bathroom. Sit. Lena. Sit down. He sat. I found the first aid kit under the sink, pulled out supplies with shaking hands. Alcohol, gauze, tape. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the bottle. Let me see, I said. He lifted his shirt. The wound wasn't deep, just a raw line across his left side where a bullet had skimmed past. It was still bleeding. This needs stitches, I said. It's fine. It's not fine. Lena, I've had worse. That doesn't make me feel better. I cleaned the wound as gently as I could. He didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, just watched me work with that same steady gaze that made me feel exposed. You're good at this, he said. I used to patch my dad up when he came home drunk. I stopped. Before my family killed him. I looked up, met his eyes. Yeah. I'm sorry. You've said that before. I know. I'm saying it again. He caught my wrist, held it gently. I can't undo what they did, but I can make sure you're never in that position again. By putting me in different dangerous positions? By keeping you alive. I finished bandaging the wound, stepped back. Is it done? Whatever you went to do? It's done. All of them? The ones that mattered, and the ones that didn't? They got the message. I didn't ask what the message was. Didn't want to know, just nodded. You should rest, I said. So should you. But neither of us moved. We just stood there in the small bathroom, too close, breathing the same air. The adrenaline of the day was wearing off, leaving something else in its place. Something I didn't want to name. Lena, Dante said quietly. Don't. Don't what? Whatever you're about to say, don't. I was just going to say thank you. For what? For caring if I came back. The words hit me harder than they should have, made my throat tight, made me want to run and stay at the same time. I care about everyone, I said. No, you don't. He was right. I didn't. I'd stopped caring about most things months ago, stopped letting myself feel anything beyond the next bill, the next shift, the next crisis. But somewhere between the warehouse and the threats and the hand across the kitchen table, I'd started caring about him, and that terrified me. We should get out of here, I said, changing the subject. Go back to the city. Not yet. Give it a few more days, make sure it's really over. And then what? Then we go back to normal. Normal, I repeated. What's that? You work, I work. We pretend the last week didn't happen. Can we? Probably not, but we can try. We went back to Miami 5 days later. The apartment in Bristol felt different now. Less like a prison, more like a bubble. A place where the rules of the outside world didn't quite apply. Dante didn't leave right away like I expected. He stayed. Made excuses about security, about needing to make sure everything was settled, about having work to do nearby. But I knew the truth. He was staying because he didn't want to leave, and I was letting him because I didn't want him to. We fell into a rhythm that felt dangerous. Coffee in the mornings while he took calls and I sorted through schedules. Dinners that turned into conversations that lasted too long. Silences that weren't uncomfortable. One night, 2 weeks after we got back, I found him on the balcony staring at the city. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "Never could." I stood beside him, leaned against the railing. "What are you thinking about? How different things could have been. If you'd made different choices? If I'd been born into a different family? If my father had been someone else? If—" He stopped, shook his head. "Doesn't matter. Can't change the past. But you can change the future. Can I?" "I don't know. Can you?" He looked at me. "What do you want me to say, Lena? That I'm going to walk away from everything? Become someone normal? Live in a house with a white picket fence and pretend I didn't spend 15 years building an empire? No. I want you to say you're trying. I am trying. Then prove it." "How?" I didn't have an answer. Didn't know what proof would look like. Didn't know if it was even possible. But standing there next to him, feeling the warmth of his presence against the cool night air, I realized I wanted to find out. "Tell me something true," I said. "Something you've never told anyone." He was quiet for a long time, then, "I'm tired." "That's it?" "That's everything." He turned to face me fully. "I'm tired of the violence. Tired of the fear. Tired of waking up wondering who's going to betray me today. Tired of being the person everyone's afraid of. I'm just tired." The honesty in his voice cracked something open in my chest. "Then stop," I said. "It's not that simple. It never is. But maybe it's worth trying anyway." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His hand lingered, warm against my skin. "You make it sound possible," he said quietly. "Maybe it is. And if it's not, then at least you tried." He leaned closer, close enough that I could feel his breath, close enough that all I had to do was tilt my head and everything would change. "Lena," he whispered, "I know. This is a bad idea. I know that too." But neither of us moved away. His lips brushed mine. Tentative. Testing. Giving me space to pull back. I didn't. The kiss deepened, became something desperate and inevitable. Like we'd both been holding our breath for weeks and finally decided to let go. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "We shouldn't do this," I said. "Probably not. It's going to complicate everything. Definitely will. And I still don't trust you." "I know. But I want to." "I know that too." He kissed me again, slower this time, like he was memorizing the moment, and I let him. Because for the first time since my father died, since my mother got sick, since my life fell apart, I felt like I was choosing something instead of just surviving it. Even if that something was dangerous, even if it was wrong, even if it would probably destroy me in the end. The next morning, I woke up alone. For a second, panic flooded through me. Then I heard sounds from the kitchen, coffee brewing, cabinets opening and closing. I got up, pulled on one of Dante's shirts, walked out. He was making breakfast. Actual breakfast. Eggs, toast, the whole thing. "You cook?" I asked. "Only when I'm trying to impress someone." "Is it working?" "You tell me." I sat at the counter, watched him move around the kitchen with surprising ease. It was strange seeing him like this. Domestic, normal. Not the man who'd stood in a warehouse while someone got beaten. Not the crime boss who terrified everyone around him. Just Dante, making eggs. "This is weird," I said. "Good weird or bad weird?" "Haven't decided yet." He plated the food, set it in front of me, sat down across from me with his own plate. We ate in silence for a while. Then, "We need to talk," he said. My stomach dropped. "About?" "About what happens now." "What do you want to happen?" "I want—" He stopped, started again. "I want to change things. How I run the business, who I work with, what I'm willing to do." "Why?" "Because of you." The words hung between us. "That's not fair," I said quietly. "You can't put that on me." "I'm not putting it on you. I'm telling you the truth. Before you, I didn't care about changing. I was fine with what I'd become. But now—" He shook his head. "Now I care. And I hate that I care. but I do. So what are you saying? I'm saying I want to try, to be better, to build something that isn't just blood and fear. He looked at me. But I need to know if you're willing to try with me. Try what? This. Us. Whatever this is. I set down my fork, looked at him, really looked. I have conditions, I said. Of course you do. No more surprises, no more secrets. If you're doing something illegal, I need to know about it beforehand. Done. And I'm not just your assistant anymore. If we're doing this, I'm your partner, which means I get a say in decisions. He hesitated. That's complicated. So is this. Fair enough. What else? No violence unless absolutely necessary. And you let me define what necessary means. Lena, that's the deal. Take it or leave it. He stared at me, and I could see him calculating, weighing the cost against the benefit, deciding if I was worth changing for. Finally, he nodded. Okay. Okay? Okay. We do it your way, with your rules, and we see what happens. Just like that? Just like that. I didn't believe him, not fully, but I wanted to. And maybe that was enough to start. The next few weeks were strange. Dante kept his word. Mostly. He started running things differently, fewer threats, more negotiations. He walked away from deals that would have required violence, fired people who couldn't work without it. The organization noticed. Some people adapted, some left, some got angry, and some started whispering that Dante Moretti was going soft, that he was being controlled by his assistant, that he was weak. I heard the whispers, ignored them. Until the day one of Dante's lieutenants said it to my face. His name was Carlo, mid-40s, been with the family since before Dante took over. He cornered me outside a meeting one afternoon while Dante was still inside. You're ruining him, Carlo said. Excuse me? Dante, you're making him weak. He's losing respect, losing control. He's gaining control, just different control. You don't understand how this works. I understand perfectly. You're scared he doesn't need you anymore. Carlo's face went red. You think you're special? You think you're different from all the other women who thought they could change him? I'm not trying to change him. I'm just refusing to let him stay the same. Same difference. Not to me. He stepped closer, too close. You're going to get him killed. Or yourself, probably both. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Dante appeared behind Carlo, silent, dangerous. Problem? Dante asked quietly. Carlo spun around. No problem, just having a conversation. Sounded like more than that. We're good. Right, Lena? I looked at Dante, at the cold fury in his eyes, at the way his hands were clenched at his sides. We're fine, I said. Carlo left quickly. Dante watched him go, then looked at me. What did he say? That I'm making you weak. And what did you say? That he's scared. Dante smiled. You're not wrong. Are you going to do something about it? Do you want me to? No, I want you to prove him wrong, without violence. That's harder. I know. Do it anyway. He took a breath, let it out. You ask for a lot. You promised. I know I did. And to his credit, he kept it. Carlos stayed, but his power diminished, slowly, deliberately, until he was just another employee instead of someone who thought he could question Dante's choices. It took 3 months. 3 months of Dante restructuring everything, of cutting ties with the worst operations, of shifting toward legitimate businesses that didn't require blood to maintain. 3 months of people watching, waiting for him to fail. He didn't, and neither did I. By the end of those 3 months, something had changed, not just in Dante's empire, in us. We stopped pretending we were just working together, stopped pretending the nights we spent together were temporary, stopped pretending this was anything other than what it was. We were building something, together, and it was messy and complicated and probably doomed, but it was ours. One night, lying in bed, Dante said something that surprised me. I talked to my uncle today. About? About stepping back. I sat up. What? I'm not getting out completely, but I'm transitioning, letting him take over the day-to-day. I'm keeping the legitimate businesses. He can have the rest. Are you serious? Completely. Why? He looked at me. Because you were right. I was tired, and I don't want to be that person anymore. What person do you want to be? I don't know yet, but I want to find out. He pulled me closer. With you. That's terrifying. I know. What if it doesn't work? Then at least we tried. I kissed him, long and slow, like sealing a promise. Okay, I whispered. Okay? Okay. Let's try. And we did. 6 months after Dante told me he was stepping back, his uncle tried to kill him. We were having dinner at his place, the house no one was supposed to know about, when the windows exploded inward, glass everywhere, shouting, gunfire. Dante grabbed me, pulled me to the floor behind the kitchen island while bullets punched holes in the walls above our heads. My ears were ringing. My heart was trying to climb out of my throat. Stay down, Dante said. He had a gun. I didn't even know he'd been carrying one. What's happening? What I should have expected. He fired twice toward the front door. Someone screamed, fell. How many? I asked. 3, maybe 4. Your uncle? Probably sitting in a car somewhere waiting to hear I'm dead. More gunfire. The kitchen cabinet splintered. A plate shattered next to my head. Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Marco's 5 minutes out. We might not have 5 minutes. I know. He moved fast, grabbed my hand, pulled me toward the back door. We ran low, staying below the window line. Another burst of gunfire followed us. Something hot grazed my arm. I gasped. Keep moving, Dante said. We made it outside, into the yard, toward the fence. Behind us, someone kicked in the back door. Dante turned, fired 3 times. The man went down. And we climbed the fence, dropped into the neighbor's yard, ran through their garden, around their house, into the street. Dante's car was parked 2 blocks away. We ran. My lungs burned. My arm throbbed. Blood was running down to my elbow, but I didn't stop. We reached the car, got in. Dante drove like he was fleeing hell itself. 5 blocks later, 2 black SUVs pulled up beside us. I tensed. It's Marco, Dante said. We followed them to a building downtown. Industrial area. Unmarked entrance, underground parking. Inside, Marco was waiting with 6 other men, all armed. Boss, Marco said. You hurt? I'm fine, Lena's hit. It's just a graze, I said. Let someone look at it anyway. One of the men checked my arm, cleaned it, bandaged it. The whole time, Dante was on the phone, issuing orders. His voice was calm, but I could see the rage underneath. Controlled, focused. When he hung up, he looked at Marco. Find him, Dante said. Find my uncle. Bring him to the warehouse, alive. What about the others? I don't care what you do with them. Marco nodded, left with his team. Dante turned to me, really looked at me. You okay? No, but I'm alive. I'm sorry. For what? For not seeing this coming, for putting you in danger, for... Stop. I grabbed his hand, held it tight. You warned me this could happen. I chose to stay anyway. That doesn't make it okay. Nothing about this is okay, but we're still breathing. That's enough for now. He pulled me close, held me like I might disappear if he let go. We stayed there for 3 hours, waiting, until Marco called. We have him, Marco said. Dante's jaw tightened. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He looked at me. You should stay here. No. Lena, I said no. If you're doing this, I'm there. You don't need to see it. I need to know it's over. He studied my face, searching for doubt. Found none. Okay, he said quietly. But if I tell you to leave, you leave. No arguments. Deal. The warehouse was the same one from months ago, where Vincent had been tied to a chair, where I'd watched and done nothing. This time was different. Dante's uncle, Antonio, was tied to the same chair. He looked smaller than I expected, older, blood on his face from where Marco's team had clearly roughed him up. When we walked in, Antonio's eyes went straight to Dante. Nephew, he said, voice hoarse but still defiant. Come to finish what I started? Come to ask you why, Dante said. Why? Antonio laughed, bitter, ugly. You know why. You went soft, started listening to her. He nodded toward me. Started dismantling everything your father built, everything I helped build. I was trying to make it legitimate. You were trying to make it weak. Those aren't the same thing. In this world? Yes, they are. Antonio spit blood on the floor. Your father would be ashamed. My father, Dante said quietly, would be dead in prison if he'd kept going the way he was going. I saved this family from that. You destroyed it. I changed it. Same thing. Dante stepped closer, crouched in front of his uncle. You tried to kill me tonight. In my home. With Lena there. You understand what that means? It means I failed. Should have sent more men. It means you broke the only rule that mattered. Family doesn't kill family. You stopped being family when you chose her over us. Dante stood, looked at Marco. Get him out of here. Antonio's eyes widened. What? You heard me. Get him out, take him to the airport, put him on a plane to Italy, make sure he never comes back. You're letting him live? Marco asked, surprised. I'm exiling him. There's a difference. Dante looked at his uncle. You want to die? You think that makes you brave? Martyrs are remembered, but exiles? They're forgotten, and that's worse. Antonio's face twisted with rage. You spineless! I'm not spineless. I'm tired. Tired of blood. Tired of revenge. Tired of this whole cycle. Dante's voice was hard. Final. You tried to kill me because you thought I was weak, but letting you die would be easy. Making you live with the fact that you failed, that you're nothing now, that's harder. And I'm choosing hard. He turned away, walked toward me, didn't look back. Boss, Marco said. You sure about this? Completely. Get him out of my sight. We left. Got in the car. Drove in silence. After 10 minutes, I spoke. You didn't kill him. No. Why not? Because you asked me to stop the violence, and because killing him wouldn't change anything. He's a relic. The past. I'm trying to build a future. But he tried to kill you. I know. And now he has to live knowing he failed. That's punishment enough. I reached over, took his hand. I'm proud of you. He glanced at me. For letting him live? For choosing something different. It doesn't feel like a victory. Most good choices don't. We went back to the Brickell apartment. It felt safer than the house now, more controllable. Inside, Dante collapsed on the couch, just sat there staring at nothing. I sat beside him. Talk to me. I'm done, he said quietly. Done with what? All of it. The business, the empire, the whole thing. He looked at me. I told Marco to start the transition immediately. Everything illegal gets sold or shut down. I'm keeping the real estate and the restaurants. The rest? Someone else can have it. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. What will you do? I don't know. Figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be my father. He took my hand. Figure out what kind of life I can build with you. That's a lot of pressure to put on this. I know, but it's true. I leaned my head on his shoulder. I'm scared. Of what? That we won't know how to be normal, that we'll fall apart when there's no crisis holding us together. Then we'll figure it out, together, like everything else. What if I'm not enough? Lena. He tilted my chin up, made me look at him. You're the only thing that's been enough for a long time. We sat there in the quiet, just breathing, just existing. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe we'd actually survive this. The transition took 4 months. 4 months of Dante slowly divesting from everything that had made him powerful in the way people feared. 4 months of meetings with lawyers, accountants, people who specialized in making dirty money clean. 4 months of watching him become someone new. It wasn't smooth. There were fights with family members who thought he was betraying them. There were deals that fell through. There were moments when I could see him questioning whether he was making a mistake, but he didn't stop, and I stayed beside him through all of it. Mom got better during that time. The treatments were working. She gained weight, got color back in her face, started talking about things she wanted to do instead of things she wished she'd done. I told her the truth one night over dinner at her place. Not all of it, but enough. I don't work at the bar anymore, I said. I know, baby, you said you got promoted. Not exactly. I work for someone. His name's Dante, and he's... I paused, tried to find words that were honest but not terrifying. He's complicated, but he's good to me, and he's trying to be better. Mom studied my face. You love him. It wasn't a question. Yeah, I said. I think I do. Does he love you? He says he does. Do you believe him? I thought about it, about everything we'd been through, about the choices he'd made, about the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Yeah, I said. I do. Mom reached across the table, took my hand. Then that's all that matters. Even if it's complicated? Especially if it's complicated. Easy love doesn't teach you anything. She was right. This love, messy and dangerous and built on blood and redemption, had taught me more about who I was than anything else in my life. It taught me I was stronger than I thought. It taught me forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing to move forward anyway. It taught me that people could change, not completely, not magically, but enough, if they wanted it badly enough. And Dante wanted it. By the time the transition was complete, we'd moved out of the Brickell apartment. Got a place together. Normal, quiet. No bulletproof glass, no security cameras on every corner. Just a house. With a kitchen where we made breakfast, with a bedroom where we slept without guns under the pillows. With a life that looked almost ordinary from the outside. Inside, it was still us. Still complicated. Still learning how to be together without the constant threat of violence. But it was ours. 1 year after the night his uncle tried to kill us, Dante and I were sitting on the back porch watching the sunset when he said something that surprised me. I talked to a lawyer today. About? About your father. I turned to look at him. What about him? About what happened, about my family's involvement. He met my eyes. I can't undo it, but I can acknowledge it, officially, and I can make sure you get what he would have wanted you to have. Which is what? Peace, and compensation, and an apology that actually means something. My throat got tight. Why now? Because I can, because it's right, and because I love you. He'd said it before, but this time felt different, heavier, more real. I love you too, I said. Even after everything? Because of everything. He kissed me, slow and certain, like we had all the time in the world. When we broke apart, he pulled something from his pocket, a small box. My heart stopped. Before you panic, he said, this isn't what you think. What is it? He opened it. Inside was a key. It's to a building downtown, the one where my office used to be. He looked at me. I'm turning it into something legitimate, a real business, property management, legal consulting, things that don't require anyone to get hurt. And I want you to run it with me. As my actual partner, not my assistant. Not someone who works for me, someone who builds this with me. I stared at the key, then at him. Are you serious? Completely. You trust me with that? I trust you with everything. I took the key, held it like it might disappear. Yes, I said. Yes? Yes. I'll build it with you. He smiled, real and unguarded. The smile of the boy in the photo with his mother. The smile I'd been waiting to see again. We spent the next year building something new. Not just the business, but ourselves. It was hard. Harder than I expected. Because turning away from violence was easy. Learning to live without it was different. Learning to handle disputes with words instead of threats. Learning to trust people who weren't bound by fear. Learning to believe we deserved something better. But we did it. And the business grew. Slowly, legitimately, no shortcuts, no blood money, just work, just effort, just two people trying to prove they could be more than their worst moments. There were setbacks. One of Dante's former associates tried to blackmail us. A journalist started asking questions about his past. A deal fell through because someone found out who Dante used to be. But we survived all of it because we'd already survived worse. 2 years after that night on the porch, I was sitting in our office, actually our office, with both our names on the door, when Dante walked in with coffee and pastries. Morning meeting got moved to 10, he said. We have time. Time for what? This. He set the coffee down, pulled me up from my chair, led me to the window that overlooked the city. You see that? He asked. What? All of it. The city. The people. The life happening out there. He put his arms around me from behind. 2 years ago, I thought I'd be dead by now, or in prison, or still trapped in something I hated. But I'm here, with you, building something that doesn't hurt anyone, and He paused. I'm happy. Actually happy. For the first time since I was a kid. I turned in his arms, looked at him. Me too, I said. And it was true. The girl who'd been drowning in debt and desperation was gone. The man who'd been trapped in violence and fear was gone too. What was left was us, imperfect, scarred, still learning, but alive, and together and free. That night we went to visit Mom. She was cooking dinner, something she'd started doing again now that she had energy for it, and she looked better than she had in years. You two look happy, she said. We are, I said. Good. You deserve it. She looked at Dante. Both of you. Dante smiled. Thank you, Maria. After dinner, we helped her clean up. Normal, domestic, ordinary, and it was perfect. On the drive home, Dante was quiet. What are you thinking? I asked. That I got lucky. How? The night I met you, I was there looking for someone else. A contact, a deal. I don't even remember what it was anymore. But you were there. And I saw something, and I took a chance. He glanced at me. That chance changed everything. It changed me too. For better or worse. Both. And I'd do it again. Even knowing what it cost. Especially knowing what it cost. Because it taught me what I'm capable of. And what I'm worth. And what I deserve. Which is this. You. A life I actually chose instead of one that was chosen for me. He reached over, took my hand, held it while he drove. And I realized something sitting there in the dark, with Miami streaming past outside. I'd spent so long believing I was powerless, that the world happened to me, that I had no control over my own life. But that wasn't true. Every choice I'd made had led me here. Some of them were bad. Some of them were desperate. Some of them I'd make differently if I could go back. But I wouldn't go back. Because this, the messy, complicated, hard-won life we'd built, was mine. And I'd fought for it. And I'd earned it. 6 months later, Dante proposed. Not with a key this time. With an actual ring. We were at the house. The one no one was supposed to know about. The one we'd repaired after the shooting and made into something safe. Lena Carter, he said, down on one knee in the kitchen where we'd first held hands across the table. Will you marry me? I looked at him. At this man who'd been a stranger, then a threat, then an employer, then a partner, then everything. Yes, I said. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Mom, Marco, a few close friends, no family on Dante's side except one cousin who'd stuck by him through the transition. It was perfect. Standing there saying vows, I thought about the girl I'd been 3 years ago. Broke. Terrified. Desperate. I thought about all the choices that had led me here. The good ones. The terrible ones. The ones I'd made out of fear and the ones I'd made out of hope. And I realized something. We're all just trying to survive. Trying to make it through one more day. One more crisis. One more impossible choice. But survival isn't enough. At some point, you have to decide to live. Really live. To choose something beyond just not dying. I'd chosen this. Chosen him. Chosen us. And maybe that was the lesson. That you can't outrun your past. You can't erase your mistakes. You can't become someone completely different overnight. But you can choose what happens next. You can choose to be better. To do better. To build something new from the broken pieces of what came before. That's what we did. It wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. It wasn't a fairy tale. But it was real. And it was ours. 3 years after the wedding, we were having breakfast on the porch when I told him. I'm pregnant. He stopped mid-sip of coffee, stared at me. You're pregnant about 8 weeks. He set the coffee down carefully, like he was afraid sudden movement would make it untrue. Are you sure? Very sure. How do you feel? Terrified, excited, both. Me too. We sat there in silence, processing. Finally, Dante spoke. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know how to be a mother. We'll figure it out. We always do, He reached across the table, took my hand, held it the way he'd held it that first night when I'd signed my life over to him, when I'd made the choice that changed everything. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." And sitting there in the morning light with our future growing between us, I realized we'd made it. Not perfectly, not easily, but completely. We'd survived. We'd changed. We'd built something worth keeping. And that was enough. Our daughter was born 7 months later. We named her Sophia. She had my eyes and Dante's smile. She had no idea what her parents had been, what they'd done, what they'd survived to get here. She just knew she was loved and safe and wanted. That was everything. Holding her in the hospital, watching Dante hold her with hands that had once held guns and made terrible choices, I thought about where we'd started. A bartender and a criminal, desperate and dangerous, broken and barely surviving. And now here we were. Parents, partners. People who'd chosen to be better. It wasn't a happy ending. Those don't exist in real life, but it was a good one. And sometimes that's all you can ask for.